Hey everybody, welcome back for another video. My name is Tanya, for those of you that are new here, and I'm a watercolor artist. So in today's video, I wanted to paint a sheep for you, and not just any sheep, I wanted to paint a pop art style sheep. So I'm hoping you enjoy it. Okay, so to get started, I've got my watercolor paper. I got a couple different size paintbrushes here. I'll let you know what size I'm using as I'm going along. I've got my Winsor Newton watercolors, 2 cups of water, 1 for cool, 1 for warm. I have my napkin, and then I'm also bringing in at the end of the painting my Arteza watercolor brush pens. You know how much I love using these. So I'm going to be bringing those in a little bit later. All right, so Google any image you want of a sheep, and I just Googled a very generic, just a headshot of a sheep. I just want this to be cute, simple, whimsical, colorful, so nothing too complicated. You can kind of just simplify it by just making little shapes here, like one for his little nose and mouth area. You could just kind of simplify it, make a little oval, and then the little eyes. And then he's got these little ears, and the ears are kind of by the eyes here. They're not too tall. They don't really stand up. The one that I'm looking at is the ears are just kind of like this on the side of the head. And just, use your pencil, be really sketchy about it. You can always go ahead and erase your marks later. And I think I'm just gonna put in his little, he's got that little nose here and then the little mouth. So I want this to be more just very simple. Nothing, I'm not really even drawing out the shape of the head or anything like that. Just very, very simple. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and lighten up some of my lines here. I'm not gonna lighten them up too much because I still want you to be able to see them on camera. Take whatever brush you have and just wipe away those little eraser shavings. I'm gonna lighten this up a little bit more. I think you can still see that. All right, so I just have the 2 ears, 2 eyes, and the little nose and mouth area. All right, so simple. Use whatever color you have on your palette. I have already on my palette these blue, greens, and purples, and pinks, and yellows. I'm just gonna be bringing in whatever I have. If you want a color a little bit lighter, like for instance, I'm gonna be using this yellow ochre, but I want it to be a little bit of a lighter yellow ochre. I know you could do it with just water, of course, but I'm gonna be bringing in a little bit of my white, and I believe this is my gouache up here. I'm gonna be bringing in a little bit of my gouache, and I'm gonna lighten that up a little bit, just so you get this more buttery, creamy color. And I'm gonna start with just little squiggle lines, just little squiggles. And you wanna kind of start from the center of the head, maybe between the eyes here, and then work your way out and then down. So you could do little swirls, you could do little zigzags, whatever you want. Just start filling up your page. You're gonna go around his little mouth at this point. And you want some up around his little ears. Do as many as you want in this color. And if you want to make it really, really dramatic, just really hang it down. Okay, so kind of get that area filled in a little bit. All right, so we've got that creamy yellow ochre. Now I'm going to be bringing in a little bit of my my aquas, and I believe this is a blue-green and a green-blue mixed together. I love mixing those 2 colors together. And I didn't wait for my yellow ochre to dry. You could totally do that, but I kind of like where the colors blend. It just gives it a cool effect, because then it just starts changing colors on you where the 2 colors meet. Add as much or as little as you want. Again, I'm just doing the little swirls and the little zigzags. And I'm just kind of, again, starting around the nose, between the eyes, and working my way out. This is a really cute project, even if you've got kids, just to do it with them. It's easy, it's quick. I just wanted to bring in a little bit more of that color, but a little bit more saturated. So I didn't dilute it as much with my water. All right, bring some of those down. All right, now I'm going to be bringing in my pinks and my purples. And I think this is a opera pink on my palette here. And now where the pink and the blue meet up, it's going to turn purple because red and blue make purple. Here again, add as much or as little as you want. Just little zigzags, just kind of wherever you think it needs a little pop of pink. And you could even start dabbing it at this point. You don't even have to make it those big, the big swirls. If you just want to just add a little splash of the color here and there, you could do that too. Start filling in around his nose because you do want that oval that you made before at the beginning. You do want to kind of highlight that. So go around his little nose a little bit and then bleed that out. And I'm going to bring in a little bit more of my blue, dab it around there. If you wanted this to be more of a serious, realistic painting, not realistic, because this is obviously very pop art, but if you wanted to be a little bit more realistic, you would just use the colors of the sheep, creamy colors and whites and grays. All right, I'm going to bring in, I think I need a little bit more of that yellow ochre, and I'm going to not mix it with my white this time. I'm just going to bring in little pops of the yellow. Kind of start going around his eyes a little bit because you want to kind of highlight those as well. All right, so we're going to let him dry for a second and we're going to start working on the ears and the eyes. So I'm going to bring in a little bit of my purpley pink color for the ear here, for the inside of the ear, just a little bit. And then I'm going to bring it on this side as well, like that. And then I think I'm going to bring in that yellow ochre again for more of the inside of the bottom part of the ear. You can leave a little highlight if you want to. All right, and then I'm gonna bring in, you could use black, Payne's gray, whatever color you want for the eyes. Oh, and I never mentioned, but I'm using a size 2 paintbrush at this point. So I've been using a size 2 the whole time. All right, so you're gonna wanna go in around the eyes. Now, if your paper is still wet here, your eye, it might bleed, so just be careful where you're going. I did not dry my paper yet, so I'm taking a chance. I'm gonna leave a little highlight in the middle, and if your paintbrush has got too much water on it, you might not be able to leave a little bit of a white highlight because your water might just drop out, so just make sure that your brush is not too saturated. We can always go in and darken that later. I just wanted to get the eyes going there. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do the little nose. So he's got these 2 little nostrils here and this little U shape that kind of connects them. And it comes down and then give him a little mouth like that. Look how cute. All right, and I'm going to bring in a little bit of my Payne's gray and my blue mixture. So I'm going to show you. I'm just bringing in a little bit of my Payne's gray with the blue that I already have on my palette. And I'm going to kind of create this beautiful, like grayed down blue green color. Really pretty. Anyways, and I'm going to go around his little nose here because I want to start adding some dimension to that little nose area. Like that. So I went around it, and wash off your brush and you can start pulling that in a little bit. So you can start shadowing a little bit of that white so it doesn't look too stark on your paper, on your page here. So see how I just kind of washed off my brush and then I dragged it in. You can also do the same thing if you want to add a little bit of dimension here to his little nose and mouth area. Go ahead with just a wet brush and just pull some of that out. If you think it's a little too much, take your paper towel, dab it off a little bit, lightens it up. We're going to take that same mixture that we just did with the Payne's gray, and I'm going to add a little bit to his ears here. because this is kind of like where the inside of the ear is. It's a little bit more shadowed. And you can start reshaping his ears if you want them to be a little bit bigger or longer, whatever. And then kind of make them look like they're connected, obviously, to the head. You don't want them just standing out. There. All right, what I'm gonna do now is I'm actually gonna dry this, and then I am going to add another layer. All right, so I went ahead and dried this, and I see a little bit of the ears still shining, so I know that the ears are still a little bit wet, but that's okay because I'm not working on those areas. I wanted to add a little bit more dimension and layers onto the fur here. So let's see. I'm going to pick up my yellow again, my yellow ochre. And I'm going to start deepening in. I'm just going to start, I want some of this white negative showing here, but maybe closing up some of them, like maybe between the eyes here and around the nose again. Because the more of that, the more of the negative space that you cover up, it'll look a little bit more of a solid area, and then these outside areas will look a little bit more airy, if that makes sense. So I'm not gonna add the background color to the outside here. I want that to be nice and airy. I'm gonna just add it more towards where the sheep is, rather than just the fur, where his actual body is. So I'm just gonna start closing up some of that negative space around his eyes and around his nose and his cheek areas. And then around on the bottom here, you kind of want to make it a little bit darker because all the fur is kind of gathering up here under their mouth area. So you're going to want to close that area up a little bit. You can bring that up. So I used a little bit more of a blue color, a gray blue color for under there. Add a little more pink. Bring a little pink around his eyes. All right, I am going to darken up around his ears now. Take my Payne's gray again. I'm just going to take a little bit here, a little more dimension for the inside of his ears. Like that. And I think I'm going to put a little bit of that around his eyes too. Just deepen up around his eyes a little bit. So cute. All right, I think what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to start adding in my Arteza brush pens. So I'm going to pull out a purple. Oh, and I like this one. What color is this? Light magenta, eggplant purple, and let's get a black. Where's my black? Here's my black. And then I might want to add maybe some of this. What color is this? Teal. Of course it's teal. That's one of my favorite colors. Of course I picked that one. All right, I'm going to go ahead and dry him once again, because if you just go ahead and put the Arteza brush pens on the wet paper, it's not going to be a crisp line, and I want these to be a little bit crisper. So I'm going to go ahead and dry that really fast. All right, so let's pull one of our colors, and we're going to start making those little zigzag lines that we had made at the beginning. And they're going to be kind of broken up. You can make little swirls, little curly cues, zigzags, whatever you want. But here again, from the inside out, from his eyes out, his nose out. And I'm just going to add a little bit here and there. You can go ahead and add water to this if you want the watercolor pigment here to just kind of absorb and bleed out a little bit. You could definitely do that. I'm going to decide that at the very end because I really like the contrast of the watercolors and the watercolor brush pens. Some of it's blurred, the blurred in the background, and then the crispness of these watercolor brush pens. If you don't add water, I like the crispness of them. So I'm going to go ahead and add a few more here and there, maybe bring a few down, a few out. All right, let's go ahead and add the teal that I love. And I'm going to add a little bit of this purple around his around his little nose and mouth area. And this part here, I think I am gonna take the watercolor brush. Still using my size 2. I guess I've used my size 2 paintbrush for this whole painting. I thought I would go down to a smaller one, but I did not. And I'm just gonna blur that out a little bit. Just blend it in with the water. Bring it down. There, that kind of highlights his little nose area a little bit more. If you want, you could bring a little bit of it in also. And if you think it's a little too much, dab it off before it dries. And I'm gonna add a little bit of my black. Now my black is kind of running out because this is the marker that I use the most. So I might have to buy a new one of this, but it's still working. It's still working. Bring in a little bit more of that black under here. That purple was a little bit too vibrant for me, so I'm just gonna deepen it a little bit. Gonna add a little bit of some dimension on his ears. And then I'm thinking I might even just bring in a little bit of black around his eyes, a little bit more. All right, take my paintbrush, blend that out. Yeah, I like the black better under there. The purple was just too vibrant. I want to gray that down a little bit. So what I'm doing is I'm just taking my brush with just water and I'm bleeding it out a little bit around his nose. And a little bit on his ears. And then that little bit of black we just did around his eyes, just taking a little bit of water. My brush is just damp. It's not really wet. And wherever you think, just sit back for a second, and wherever you think that it needs a little bit more dimension and substance, go ahead and just add a little bit of water. I think he needs a little bit more curly cues. So I'm just gonna take my original colors and I'm just gonna exaggerate. He just needs to be a little bit fuller. He just doesn't look that full to me. There, now he's starting to fill out the page. And I will take some of that pink, my opera pink. Add a little bit of that. If you want to bring some curls in front of his ears, make him, his head a little bit fuller up here. Oh my gosh, he's adorable. All right, and then for the last step, if you think that you didn't leave enough highlight in his eyes here, you can always take your bleed proof white with a pen, not a pen, I'm sorry, a paintbrush that you're not that fond of, because I don't really trust this stuff on my good watercolor markers. And then just make those little highlights a little bit bigger. And if you see that you need a little bit of a highlight here or there, you know what? Actually, I'm gonna let this dry and then I might go over it with a little bit of bleed proof white just to capture a little bit more of that white in here. So I'm gonna dry that first. But another thing I wanna do is I'm gonna take my opera pink and get it nice and wet on my paintbrush, and I'm just gonna tap it because I want to have these splatter marks. And I just splattered a little bit more around him. I didn't really splatter on his face. Okay, so let's grab our bleed proof white again. And I'm just gonna be bringing in a couple little curly cues, just to give it an extra little dimension right in here. And if you don't have the bleed proof white, you don't have to do this, or you could use your white gouache if you have white gouache. It just got a little bit too blurred in this area, and I want to give it a little bit more detail. And then if you want, you can add a little bit here and there also, just to give it an extra little layer. And you don't need to do too much to the outside of his fur because it's already airy. We didn't go over it too much there. Adorable. All right, I'm gonna take my black again. I'm just gonna close up this highlight. I made this highlight on this one eye just a little bit too big. There we go. Perfect. All right, don't forget to close up your bleed-proof white. This stuff dries out very fast. All right, there you go. Look how cute he is. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you liked it and learned a little something. And if you did like it, please give me a thumbs up, and you can make a comment in the comment section. And don't forget to subscribe if you want more videos like this one. And you can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Have a great day. Bye.